Hey guys, welcome back. I know it's been a little while. Had some family stuff going on, went on a little vacation, sick kids, etc., etc. This is just my hobby. But anyway, making something classic, just chicken soup. Easy. Start with a mirepoix. I made chicken stock the other day. It's gelled, a little fat on top. I'll scrape the fat off the top. And some whole chicken. So let's get to it and I'll show you how to make a classic chicken soup. So I'm starting with celery, carrots, and onions. In a restaurant, when I was in the restaurants, I would peel my carrots, but at home you don't really need to unless you feel that you don't like it. Just scrub them real good and that would be good enough for most carrots. I'm gonna scrub these up real good and then I'll dice these up and dice up everything and I'll show you how to get this together. So I've cut the tops off the carrots, and now I'm just going to cut them lengthwise. And be careful with carrots. Root vegetables are really the most dangerous vegetables to cut in the kitchen. If you have a really sharp knife, it's really not an issue. But if your knife is dull at all, you'll bounce off the vegetables and cut yourself. And I was working in a restaurant in Newport Beach, California, and I cut myself really bad cutting up a bunch of carrots and had to go home for the day. And that was the only time I ever cut myself really bad, was cutting up carrots. All right, so we've got those just quartered, and now we'll just run the knife through them. We're gonna give them a nice medium dice. Just like that. Now that we've got the carrots diced up, we're gonna move to the celery. Now after you rinse your celery, same thing. These are easy to cut. You're gonna split them. So you turn each rib into 2 ribs. You may need to do some into 3 ribs to get uniformity. You want everything about the same size. Just like that. And then once you have a uniformity, you're just gonna cut it again into a nice medium dice. Just like that. And that's what you want right there, a medium dice. Now we come to the onion. There's all different ways to cut onions. I cut off both the root end and the stem end. As long as you have decent ventilation, you're not going to cry too much. And instead of doing it this way, which was taught in the restaurant, I tip it up, make it easier on myself. And I cut straight down. And then I turn it to myself. Cut down this way. And now you can easily dice that onion. Without any problems. And no tears. You did it in a second, so there's no tears. Once your pan gets hot, you can just add some olive oil. And I'm going to add about a tablespoon of chopped garlic. And now I'm going to add all my vegetables. Give that a good stir. And the nice thing about cooking at home is you can add your own salt. You don't have to over salt. So I'm just adding about a teaspoon of salt and a good crack of pepper. This is just black pepper. Again, about half a teaspoon of black pepper. You're gonna mix it up. Cover it up and let those cook for about 5 minutes until they get a little bit tender. And then we'll add the stock. So here's another tip that you probably already know, but Make sure when you're cutting or prepping any kind of chicken, make sure you do it away from where you prep vegetables and anything else. For contamination purposes, you want to keep it away. So I have a dedicated chicken board. So I just defrosted this chicken in the microwave. As you know, I buy a lot of my foods in bulk, so I just did a quick defrost on this, and I'm just going to do the same thing, cut it into a nice dice. It's still a little bit frozen, but that's okay. You do want to keep your knife sharp, so every once in a while just hit them on the steel to bring that edge back. Even though my knives are good and sharp, doing that just makes them stay sharp longer. Now you can see it's much easier for me to go through this meat than it was just a moment ago. Now I'm just going to give these one more chop. Any large pieces, just cut them down. But they're all spoon size, I like to call it. You want to have it so if you pick up a piece of chicken, or anything really, you want to have it so it'll fit on a spoon. And this is just one large chicken breast. There we go, all ready to go. Now this is a rich chicken stock I made. I'm just gonna scrape the fat off the top because we're gonna use this chicken stock as the base. But we don't want all that fat in there. So we're gonna see how much, get as much as you can off the top. If anybody wants to know how to make, this is just a chicken demi-glace. If anybody wants to know how to make this, just let me know in the comments and I'll show you how to make that. It's really easy to do. So these vegetables have been cooking just for a few minutes and they're starting to tender up. We want them to tender up a little bit to add some extra depth of flavor to our soup. Because if you just throw these in a pot without first sauteing them, you're not going to have the depth of flavor you'll have if you saute them. What you're trying to do in a soup is build flavor by layering each flavor on top of each other. At this point though, I'm going to add some fresh rosemary. I have 3 sprigs of fresh rosemary. I'm just going to toss those in there. And that'll start adding some good flavor as well. Now that the vegetables have cooked up a little bit more, we're going to make room in the bottom of the pan and we're going to throw the chicken in. Now we're just going to cover and let that continue to cook for about 5 more minutes. Now it's been just a couple more minutes and you can see the onions are turning opaque. Some of the other vegetables are softened up and the chicken is starting to brown. At this point we're just going to add the stock I made and we're going to add a little bit of water. So total liquid, I had a half a gallon of stock and I added a quart of water. So it's 3/4 gallon of liquid to the vegetables. And you can see it can be pretty chunky. We could always add more water later if it reduces too much, but we're gonna let this simmer as is with no other spices other than the rosemary, the salt and pepper for about a half an hour. So it's been about 30 minutes. This has come to a simmer, it's been simmering nicely. What we're gonna do now is add some dry herbs. Now I have some whole thyme. I'm just gonna add about a teaspoon of thyme. And I have some whole oregano. Again, I'm just gonna add about a teaspoon of oregano. I'm just gonna grind this up. I'm just gonna add this right to the soup. Now, like I said, it's been about 30 minutes. We're gonna let this go for about another 30 minutes, just until the vegetables are tender, and then this soup is done. At that time, we'll adjust for seasoning if we need to, add more salt if we need to, or more pepper, and serve. So, it's been 30 minutes. We're just gonna pull out the sticks, if we can find them, from the rosemary. Well, can't find them both, I got one. I'll find the other ones, but anyway, so the soup is done. I'm gonna check for seasoning. I'm gonna add a little more black pepper and just about a pinch more salt. And that should do it. And let me serve some. So that's it, guys. Classic chicken soup. I like to finish mine with a little Parmesan cheese on top. Thanks for watching. God bless. Have a great day.